on. He's muted.
It looks like he's on, but he's muted.
Okay, I just did.
O'clock. My name is Ann Becknell. I'm the treasurer of the Budget and Finance Committee. And I'd like to call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. We have 4 of our committee members present, and we have 4 coming in via Zoom for this first meeting. So if you would please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. We've already established that we have a quorum, and I'm going to read the meeting procedure, which is linked to the agenda if you care to see it in writing. The governing board and its committees conduct all of their meetings in compliance with Arizona Planned Community Association open meeting laws per ARS 33-1804, and in concert with RCSCW bylaws, policies, and standing rules. Parliamentary procedures as outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order will also be followed in all meetings as appropriate, consistent with Bylaw 3.07, Procedures for Owner-Member Meetings, and Standing Rules number 2 and 3. Thank you. I would like to identify if there's any issues with the minutes as they were posted from the May 20th, 2025 meeting. Any issues, any objections? I see nothing coming in online, nobody present, so those meetings will stand as written. Thank you very much. Just want to remind everybody about microphone usage, which I think we already have. Our phones are off the table, so we shouldn't have any interference. And the next thing I'd like to do is have the budget and finance introductions for the 25-26 year. Literally half of my committee is coming forward from last year, so we have a great deal of experience. The other half of my committee is new, so they're new owner members that have joined the committee. So I'm going to start down here at my right. Rick, would you please start? Would you give us your name and how long you've been here, and were you on the board last year, on the committee last year or not?
My name is Rick Rufai. This is my second year on the Budget and Finance Committee. I was involved in the Special Working Committee last year to look at the investment strategy in our Capital Reserve Fund, and that was quite an ordeal, learned a lot of things about it. I've been here in Sun City West since 2022, so I'm involved in golf. I'm involved, my background is I've worked in the publishing industry, worked in the MRO, maintenance and distribution industry, and the automation components industry. And those all had finance and operations positions. And my last position was CFO of the automation components part company that was headquartered in Milan, Italy. So.
Thank you, Rick.
Good morning, Ann, and everyone present. My name is David Perel. I'm second year on this committee. I've been in Sun City West since 1998 as a family member and owning a place here. I moved down here permanently in 2022, I guess it is. And I've always had an interest in what's been happening. Last year was a very educational experience being on this committee, and I hope we can carry some of that forward onto this committee and continue the great work that was done last year.
Appreciate that. Thank you, David. Chris?
I'm Chris Waller. This is my second year on the Budget and Finance Committee. I've been a resident Sun City West for 3 years now. When I first got to Sun City West and learned how we operate, I was pretty impressed at how this organization runs, and at the same time realized that we're talking about an awful lot of money. So I volunteered to join the Budget and Finance Committee, both as educational and also to help protect our investments.
Thank you, Chris. John Click?
Hello, my name is John Click. I am starting my second year on the board. Learned a lot last year and looking forward to doing it again. Lived here in Sun City West for 4 years. I'm involved in the pickleball club. I'm involved in the men's club for, is that poker? Men's poker club. My experience in my career is accounting. I was trained in accounting. The last half of my career, I got the privilege of being a principal in an employee benefits company, and we did some consulting work where I would, my role was to help small and medium-sized companies with their financial and accounting issues. I semi-retired a few years ago, and I took some part-time jobs. My last job, I was the controller for the oldest golf and country club in Portland, Oregon, the Riverside Golf and Country Club. And so for 3 years, I got a good look at how golf works in a community. So anyway.
Thank you, John.
Good for me.
Don?
My name is Don Heeman. I bought down here in 2008 and moved in permanently 2018. I have been heavily involved in Theater West. I also am involved with Boomers like everybody else. I play golf 3 days a week. I bowl once a week. I go to dances on the weekend, even if we don't have anything going on right now with Lizard Acres closed. I was an accountant and MBA in management. I have been accounting manager. I've been a controller twice in different companies, both of them basically insurance companies. I've worked both manufacturing, banking, insurance, and high tech. And I also did my own consulting for a while before I permanently retired.
Thank you, Don. And this is your first year on the committee, correct?
Oh, I'm a brand new newbie.
That's right. That's good. Get some, I'm going to say young blood. How about that?
Yeah,
Does that work? All right.
No, newbie works.
Newbie works. All right. So online on Zoom, we have Mickey Jacobs. Mickey, would you introduce yourself, please? Off of mute.
My name's Mickey Jacobs. This is my second year on the committee. Along with Rick Rufai, I was involved in the investment policy review and new investment policy that we put together last year. I am an accountant by trade. I was a CPA, and then I went into corporate finance, ending as the CFO of a large mining company. My last 20 years I spent with PricewaterhouseCoopers, where I was the finance director for their West Region tax department, which included everything in the country west of Denver plus Texas. My husband and I came to the community 6 years ago, right after we retired. And like others have said, we were very impressed with the community itself. And once I got involved in this committee last year, I became very impressed with the way it's managed. And I am very pleased that I can be a part of that and help with the management of a really vibrant community.
Thank you, Mickey. Dave DeWitt, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi, I'm Dave DeWitt. Moved to Sun City West in 2022. This is my first year on the Budget and Finance Committee. Followed the Budget and Finance Committee very closely ever since I moved here because that's kind of my background. I've been a CFO for 5 different country clubs in my career. Currently still a CFO for a country club in Michigan. Just have 30 years of experience in the golf business. So had a lot of interesting conversations with Cliff already. So just wanted to try and bring my assistance to the committee wherever needed.
Thanks, Dave. Bill Weaver, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, this is Bill Weaver. I hope to bring maybe a little bit different perspective to the committee. I've never been in the finance as such. I was a manager and director of computer repair and services and desktop support at the University of Wisconsin for 30 years. And my budget had grown to 3.7 million and 40 staff. So I have that kind of perspective to think about. I moved to Sun City. Oh, this is my first year on the Budget and Finance Committee. We bought in 2015 and we're full-time in 2017. Not sure if that might be enough, but the other interesting thing is that all the services that I provided at the campus at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, the departments and individuals had to pay for. I got no central funding. They called it a cost recovery type thing. But the only limitations I had to work with were that I could not lose more than 10% on my budget and I couldn't make more than 10%. So my restriction, I was kind of restricted. So we kept making more money and had to keep reducing prices. So that was a good thing for campus. But anyway, so I come from a different background than probably most people who have dealt more in finance directly, but I did have to generate my own budget and meet my own budgets, and that makes sense. All right, that's it, I guess.
Thank you, Bill. I think that will add a nice flavor to the committee. Don Taylor, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name's Don Taylor. I'm really excited to be on this committee, and I, like many others on the committee, are impressed by how well it's run and hope I can contribute. My background is I'm a CPA, or was a CPA. I'm retired. My wife and I looked at many different places before we chose Sun City West. As a CPA, I got first involved in associations when I bought a condo, my first home, and it was we were taking over from the developer, and there were all kinds of problems, including the property manager paying some of the developer bills from the association funds, and we had fun stuff like that. Ultimately, I became a auditor for 60 or 70 different associations in the greater Puget Sound area near Seattle, Washington. And I'm just looking forward to being on the committee and hope my expertise can fit right in.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate that. So if you're interested in more in-depth information about any of the members on the committee, you can find those online. This is going to be the last time we walk through the roster and introduce ourselves, so if you're interested at all, you can always refer back to today's meeting and see this roster lineup. So moving straight ahead, each committee member received a confidential roster of all the committees, the directors, the chairperson of that committee, and so on. That information is highly confidential. It should not be copied, handed out, or given to anyone else. It's available for our use and our participation in the various committees that we'll be involved with, because as I understand, we're involved with basically every committee there is. Okay? Any questions, any comments about that? From the board? No questions online? Anybody in the room? Fantastic, great. Well, then we're going to move right on to the next item, which is the committee orientation ARS open meeting bylaws 6.01, 6.02. There are 3 links that have been attached to this agenda that go into these ARS guidelines and rules. Karen, did you want to open up ARS 33 and just show them an example of what they could see if they open up the attachment? So you can see this is a very nice, lengthy document. I was going to print this whole thing out, but it ended up to be 77 pages by the time I printed everything out. But if you're interested, you can certainly get online, click to read this. You can also go to our bylaws, 6.01, organization and committee PDF. And you'll be able to read through that document. Karen's bringing that up as we speak. There we go. Organizational committees, so on and so forth. So you can read through that document if you're so encouraged to do so. And then the final is bylaw 6.02, standing committees. Okay. And again, we can read through that standing committee, and if there's any questions, if any of the board members read through those documents and have a question, please email me, and I will add them to a future agenda for further discussion. I don't see any questions online, and I don't see anyone in the room standing up. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward on to item 3.05. which I'm going to turn over temporarily to my friend Karen Ripken to talk about the new Governing Hub cheat sheet that she's created so that you can learn to use our new Governing Board website. Karen?
Thank you, Ann. Again, my name is Karen. I'm the assistant to the Governing Board, and on behalf of the board, we're excited to introduce you to the new RCSEW governance website. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about what we're looking at on the screen, which I'll try to scroll through fairly slowly. What this is, for those of you who are familiar with Board Docs, this is the new Board Docs site that we'll be using for all of our governing board meetings and our committee meetings going forward. So for those of you that used to use Board Docs last year and years before, you can tell that it has been heavily remastered by the parent company. If you ever hear the word Diligent, they're the parent company. We subscribe to our site through them, but we've basically customized it for us. Hence, it is what we call our governance hub. No longer are we going to use the term Board Docs. We're going to call it the governance hub, or as I already am calling it, the hub. And notice that I'm just going to go through some of the key points here. Notice there's a calendar in the upper right-hand corner. In fact, if you look at today's meeting, We're here on the 2nd. If you click on the 2nd, you can see the meeting we're sitting in. If I were to click on that, it would go to the agenda. I'm not going to do that because there's a delay for the viewers at home and it's a little confusing. So that we're in this meeting right here today. We already have a meeting this afternoon of the Charter Clubs, that committee. And notice that if you scroll down, you can also see today's meetings, and there they are again. You can look at upcoming meetings, and that means that there's going to be an election special committee meeting Wednesday, on Thursday props, and so forth and so on. What I do want to point out is right now we still have some duplicate meetings. That's because we're still checking our site. So always look at the item with the red marking, and that doesn't always appear. Why? Because the minute you see an underlined item with an orange or red, depending on your color site, that means the agenda is live. And that's when when I make it live, the meeting goes live. So if I go back up here to the schedule of meetings, sorry, I'm used to using a different mouse. So if I go up to the schedule and hit the back button up here comes the little calendar. And notice that, again, if I click the 11th of September, I've made those meetings live because they're both orange. That means you can click through and look at the agenda. If I go to a different meeting, let's say the 7th, the workshop meeting on November 7, notice how it's gray. That's because the agenda hasn't been made live yet. So I just want to point that out because, again, you can look at all of our meetings throughout the year. They are all posted in terms of dates. So you can literally, if you want to know when our meetings are in February, there they all are. You can click on them to see on February 5, what is it? It's a Properties Committee meeting. But again, there's nothing to click through to because it hasn't been made live. The box is not orange and it's not underlined. It's not clickable, in other words. Again, they become clickable when I make the agenda live. So I just wanted to point that out. So this is the easiest way to look for our meetings if you go onto the Hub site. Now, how does one get to this site, by the way? The easiest way, and I'm going to use, if I scroll down, I'm going to go to the website. So I'll start at the Sun City West website. That's a very different site to the Hub. They're two different websites. So if you go to the Sun City West website, scroll halfway down to the governing board link, click on that. And once that comes up with all the pictures of the board, you'll know you're on the governing board page. And you go down right here. The very bottom is the Governance Hub, again, formerly Board Docs. Just click on that link. And that's the quickest way to get to the Hub. So we're back to the home page I was just talking about, the schedule of meetings. The only other thing that I'm going to go through today is if you scroll halfway down, this is where, again, notice it's underlined. This is the governance library. This is where the bylaws and the policies are. I'm not even going to click through. We have various documents, including board information, other governance documents at Document and Information Center. We have the review area. When the board makes changes to bylaws or policies, they will be listed here on a 30-day policy per Arizona open meeting law. You can go directly again to the website from here if you'd like. And again, remember the Sun City West website is a different site to the Governance Hub. This is what I want to draw your attention to. This is a new feature on our Hub. Notice it says subscribe to meeting notices. If I click through, you can again remember to always scroll down like you're reading a newspaper page to get to the content, right? So look at, here are all the meetings of the board, and I mean all of them, all the different kinds of meetings throughout the year. You can click the ones you're interested in, enter your email address, and hit the button subscribe. And that way, when you do that and I make a meeting live by posting the agenda, you will get a notice in your inbox that that meeting is coming. So it's kind of a nice new feature on this site. So again, the last thing I will show you at the bottom And notice there's nothing here because I'm not on the home page. I can go back to the home page by clicking home. You know your home, by the way, you can see the home word and the various rotating pictures of the board and our buildings. Again, on the hub at the bottom, here is my contact information. Should you have questions about this site, feel free to call me and I will come back to you if I don't answer my phone directly. So I'm not going to review much more. Welcome to our new hub site. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And I know how many months and months and months that you have spent migrating from the old board docs to our new board docs, and you've done a fabulous job. It's very interactive. It's very easy to follow. And thank you for all your hard work, because I know you were working day and night because you were calling me day and night, asking me questions. So thank you for all of your effort. Very appreciated. So moving on, if there no questions from the audience, no questions on YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next item, which is, or did any of the board have any questions? I'm sorry, forgot to ask the board. Okay, and I just was reminded by my friend that we're not the board, we're the committee. So I apologize if I use those words interchangeably. No comments from the committee. Thank you very much. So I'm going to now turn it over to Cliff to give us the financial review for May and June of 2005. Cliff?
Thank you, Director Becknow, and welcome everybody, the new committee and the returners. For everybody's knowledge, I'm Clifton Swan. I'm the CFO here at the Recreation Centers of Sun City West. I've got Terry West in the back. She's running the overhead on this. And before we get started, Terry, can I have you click off of this and go into the financial attachment? So when we post our financial presentations for our committee meetings, we always post a financial statement of at least the current month that we're presenting, and if we weren't able to present a prior month, we attach those as well. But on there, you'll see a rolled up statement of revenues and expenses, okay? And if you scroll down, there'll be a summary page. We recently had a request to give some more context to these numbers, so we'll start providing that moving forward. But there's a summary of where we're at compared to budget reported on this report on page 3. And if you scroll down, you'll see a balance sheet. And then you'll see a statement of cash flows. And then there'll be basically an investment statement or a cash statement explaining the status of all of our cash accounts. And then you'll start to see some kind of statistical information from there on just the various things that we provide here. This is on APFs, our asset preservation fees. And then scrolling down, you'll see, we call this the fin data report. It just kind of gives some details into golf cart sales and just various things, range balls, card holders, just various, membership, bowling statistics, transfer fees, APF fees. So just give some kind of information or data, operational data into our different revenue areas. So if you have an opportunity to review that before you come to the B&F committee meeting, then we put a presentation together, kind of rolled up presentation of those last financial results. And that's what our presentation is essentially reporting, what we're presenting on. So I just wanted to show you that before we get started. And then now we'll do our financial presentation. So we have just completed fiscal year in June 30. We have a fiscal year close of July 1 through June 30. And we'll be presenting our unaudited financial year end for fiscal year 24-25 today. And in October, we have our audit presentation, and we'll be presenting the final results at the audit presentation from Clifton Larson Allen, CLA, our audit firm. So on this presentation, we have our agenda topics. We basically present a month over month versus prior year and versus budget, and then we do a year-to-date presentation versus prior year and budget. We move down, that's on the statement of income and expenses, or the operating statement. And then we move down to the capital section of that operating statement, talk about things like APF fees and reserve fund performance. And then then from there, we move into our capital improvement budget, talk about how we're tracking for the year on our capital projects. And then finally, you'll hear me say this consistently throughout the year. We talk about the reserve fund because it's all about the reserve fund. So we talk about the fully funded balance percentage and how we're tracking compared to budget. So let's get started on the monthly and year-to-date income from operations. So for the month of June, compared to budget, we finished 56,000 favorable in revenue. We'll talk about year-to-date, which will give some information into all these various items, but 56,000 favorable for the month of June. Looking at our expenses, 200,000 favorable in the month of June. There's a large wages and benefits and taxes favorable variance of 120,000 for the month. And again, we'll talk about that once we get to the year to date for the year. But overall, 256,000 favorable to budget for the month of June. Comparing that to last year, we finished a little unfavorable to last year at 44,000. So looking at our revenue, we're switching to year to date now. So for the year, we finished at approximately 29.5 million in revenue, and we budgeted approximately 30 million in revenue. So 475,000 unfavorable. When it comes, when we talk about the revenue, we're off about 0.5% in membership fees. In golf, we finished about 4% under budget. It was about 5,800 rounds under budget for the year of last year. And that resulted in a 4% variance to budget, unfavorable to variance, but to budget on our revenue side. Everything else we carried pretty well. I will say Sports Pavilion finished at about 12% favorable to budget, which was just awesome. We did some new things last year that we hadn't done in the past with open bowling, and our new Sports Pavilion manager, Gary Zarek, really did some great things last year, which increased our revenue. So we finished very favorable in budget, but you see that budget's about $1 million in revenue, nowhere near the 11 million in golf. So, but we'll take it, right? 12% favorable, that's pretty good. And then you'll see down in rec and events, it was a tough year for rec and events. We talked about it all last year between weather and we had a lot of employee turnover also in that department. And we're really looking forward to this year. We've got hired some really good staff that are kind of taking over in there, and we look forward to turning that around this year. Obviously, the weather we don't have any control over that, so we'll just see how that goes. But in terms of this year versus last year, we feel really good about where we're at right now with our staff and the events that we have planned for this year. And then interest and other, that's just our interest income on our operating account. We invest that in short-term treasuries, and those held all year at 4.2 to 4.3% for the whole year. So that was a favorable to budget at 122,000. But overall, 475,000 unfavorable to budget on the revenue side. Fortunately, we had some really favorable things happen last year when it comes to expense. We talked a little bit earlier, kind of teased the wages, benefits, and taxes. So we finished 765,000 favorable for the year. I will say, most of that favorability came from golf and from golf landscape and our maintenance department. We had some turnover in those areas. And also I will say that with the turnover in those areas, we did have to go out and employ contracting services to take care of a lot of the things that we weren't able to take care of in-house, to the tune of about $300,000 over budget. So that 765 was offset by about 300,000 of outside labor that we had to employ to make sure that we still provided the level of services that we needed to provide here. But overall, favorable when you look at it by 400,000 compared to budget. Utilities, gas prices, the natural gas usage was significantly down year over year. The rates also held on natural gas. So that was the largest driver. And then we also had savings in our telephone and internet because of the phone upgrade that we put in. But both of those kind of drove that favorability there. Yeah, we saved about 70,000 in phone and internet from that phone upgrade, which cost us about 100,000. So ROA on that is already taken place, essentially. So it was a good year there. Moving on to supplies and services and equipment. I would say the bulk of that was of the savings there was fuel prices. So gas, so fuel, all the fuel that we use here at all the different areas. We saved about 885,000 compared to budget in fuel. And that's simply just because of the rates. The fuel rates year over year were down. So when we put the budget together, I think average fuel prices were, I don't know, $3.60 a gallon or something. We came in probably about $3.30 a gallon on average last year. So that was very helpful and saved us to budget. And let's see, taxes and insurance, we saved about 106,000, and that's we saved about 16,000 in our property taxes because we went through and purged a lot of the old equipment and things we had in our fixed asset budget. Being 46 years old, you accumulate a lot of things over time, and when you have turnover and things like that within management and finance departments, sometimes you got to go through and take a look at those things. And we did a project last year with Pete Finelli, and we went in and touched all the assets and was able to go in and take some of the things off, which saved us on our personal property taxes, which was very helpful for the year. It was a good exercise to go through. So we took care of that last year, and that's saving us ongoing funds in our personal property taxes. So that's helped out a lot. And then down in the legal and professional, we had legal, professional, and other 192,000 favorable to budget. We had 64,000 in just legal and professional savings to budget year versus year. So we put the budget together. I would say we had a very litigious 23-24, and when we put that budget together, we held the line there. So we were able to have some savings there. 75,000 in service contracts. There were some things that we had put in the budget that we were going to look at doing when it comes to service contracts and software systems and things like that we kind of held back because we had a new IT manager start, and we didn't really want to enter into anything new without making sure that we assessed everything that we had. So there were some things in the budget that we forewent and didn't move forward on last year, which created a savings. And then finally 9,000 in employee-related expenses, uniforms, training, things like that. There were some savings to budget, some things that we budgeted that we didn't do as well. But overall, 1.3 million favorable to the budget in operating expenses. And the overall operating cash flow. So when we put the budget together, as a zero balance budget, revenue and expenses. And we came in 819,000 favorable to that. Now, we ran a little bit of a deficit in our estimated reserve fund allocation because as you saw, our membership revenue was about 70,000 light. So that was a little bit light. So this will offset that, of course, by more than that. But overall, 819,000 favorable, all of which goes into the reserve fund at the end of the day. Compared to last year we finished about 863,000 favorable. I will say that year, the reserve fund allocation was under 1.1 million. In 24-25, it was about 1.2 million. So there is a variance in the reserve fund allocation. If you factor that in, you'll see year over year, we finished better than last year. And the main, really, if you look at the expenses compared to prior year at 949,000, unfavorable variance to prior year, the bulk of that was 764,000 in wages and benefits. So we really held the line year over year on our other operating expenses, and felt like we did a really good job last year of holding the line on that year over year. All right, let's move down to the capital section. So comparing last June to June 24-25, we finished 11,000 favorable in the month of June in APF fees. You look at the reserve fund performance. June was a very good month for us. We had 181,000 in realized gains. We'll have a presentation on that coming up from Cap Trust. Is that November? I can't remember where Terry, was it November we're doing that? Yeah, in November we'll present the Cap Trust quarterly report for the second quarter. But that 181,000 was realized gain on when we restructured to move our percentage from 10% to 25% in our investment, our reserve fund investments. So moving from fixed to our securities. So anyway, that created $181,000 favorable variance in there. So realized gain. And then down on the unrealized gains and losses, we finished 340,000 favorable. So favorable valuation in the market for the month of June. So overall, 616,000 favorable in the capital related section for the month of June compared to prior year, which was about 670,000 favorable. So year to date, 1.3 million favorable in our capital related area. We finished compared to budget, pretty much right on budget with APF fees. We weren't sure what the impact of the new collection rules and the new APF rules for the statutes for Arizona last year. We did a whole presentation on that, if you remember that last year. We weren't sure what the impact of that was going to be. The major impact of that was really in our REDS program, which is those are the non-traditional title transfers that happen throughout the year and that have happened even in previous years. That's where we would catch all those APF fees on quick claim deeds and things like that. So the revenue in that area came down because a lot of those are title transfers that happen for zero to no consideration, where we would collect an APF in the past. We didn't collect nearly as much as we normally did in that area. But overall, 63,000 unfavorable budget on 5.7 million is pretty good. So we finished the year out pretty much right on budget, even though we had to deal with that last year. And then overall on the investment income, we finished 184,000 favorable. So interest and dividends and our reserve fund were 1.1 million. And then taking a look at our unrealized or market change, we had a positive market valuation change of 973,000 for the year. Compared to last year, we finished 631,000 favorable to budget. I'm sorry, favorable to prior year. 180,000 on APF fees, 125,000 on investment income, 155,000, talked about that earlier, on the estimated reserve fund allocation. So overall, a very good year down in the capital section of the income statement. So 180,000, like we talked about, in APF fees. We finished about 28 shy of what we did the prior year. We finished with 1,119 APF fee transactions versus 1147 the prior year. So we'll see how this year goes. I will say for the month of July, I haven't looked at August yet, but for the month of July, we finished over prior year in APF transactions. So we'll see how August shakes out, and we'll be presenting August year to date at the next Budget and Finance Committee meeting in 2 weeks. So for our reserve fund valuation change of 507,000 compared to prior year, so that was a very good positive variance for us. So overall revenues over under expenses, we finished 2.152 million favorable to budget and 587,000 favorable to prior year. All right, let's talk about how we did last year in our capital improvement budget. Last year we budgeted 9.9 million, and we PO'd and paid for 9.6 million at a $322,000 favorable variance to our capital improvement budget. So we were able to save $322,000. I will say there was a $180,000 paving project that we actually extended the life on. That made up a big portion of that $322,000, but still overall a savings compared to budget. And then we had $45,000 in contributed capital to that, which gave us an overall savings of approximately $368,000. So it was attached the details of the capital improvement budget, and that's one thing you can look at before you come in. If you have any questions, or if you're looking at it now and you have any questions, let me know. But it kind of explains each project and how we did compared to budget, plus or minus. And then we do a summary of our allowances. So we had 420,000 in our capital improvement budget, and we spent 413,000. So allowances are funds that are used for unplanned capital expenditures. So most of the time, the reserve study items that we thought we would get another year useful life out of them, and we didn't. So we basically moved those up on the reserve study they would have been done the next year or the year after that. We moved them up and do them in the current year because they have to be done. That's what most of that is, unless you have a well pump that goes out. We don't put well pumps on the reserve study because they're on the reserve study, but we don't put them in for a capital improvement project because we don't know when they're going to go out or not. But we do have the funds available for them, and then we allocate them in allowance funds. But this is a detailed list of what we spent on the 413,000 on for last year. So again, it's all about the reserve fund. So when we look at last year, we had a very good year. I mean, if you think about it, spent up almost 10 million in capital improvement projects. We offset that 10 million by 1.9 million in estimated reserve fund allocation and then excess. We had 5.7 million or 5.8 million or 5.7 million in APFs. Our investment account was positive 2.1 million with 1.1 million in investment income and then positive valuation performance. That's net of fees. And then our capital funded and grants and others, that's that contributed capital area. So overall, we started at 30.4 million. We spent 9.9 million, and we finished at 30.3 million in our reserve fund. So a pretty good year, and then so that gave us a 49% FFB percent, which policy says we have to be at least 40, between 40 and 100. So this year, again, these are unaudited numbers, but we're anticipating transferring from the reserve fund approximately 2.3 million to cover the deficit in capital spend versus cash inflows versus cash outflows. Okay, so pretty successful year in our reserve fund and pretty exciting because that's in a year where we paid for an irrigation project. Pretty exciting. So anyway, that completes my financial presentation, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Cliff. Does anyone on the committee have some questions for Cliff regarding the presentation you just saw? All right, Chris, please go ahead.
Thanks, Cliff. Good job as usual. The APF fees, when they're, we had 28 less transactions. Are those paid transactions or transactions? How, because now with the new state rule, we may not collect on them, right?
Yeah, so that was just compared to prior year, we had 28 less.
Paid or actual transactions?
Paid.
Okay, so we're only counting the
Paid.
fees. We're
That's
not
right.
counting a
Exactly.
change
Oh,
in
yeah,
name.
no, we don't.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct.
And then, is there a process in place for us to track the impact of that state law change? I mean, is something we're looking forward to, saying,
Yeah, so the only way to track it is just to say, we would have collected this previously, but we didn't collect it now.
I'm just thinking like long-term, if that's going to be a 2% or 5% impact on us or something like that.
Yeah, I would say last year it was a 2% impact. It'll probably go up a little bit because it didn't go into place until September.
Right.
So this year
And it had a 2%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see how it tracks. This year ought to be a really good barometer for us.
I think that you kind of answered another question I had. We did make some adjustments in our investment portfolio.
Yes, we did those in June.
Are they done? I mean,
They're
is there,
done.
okay,
Yes.
so that's done. All right, good. That was my other question. We're not going to see another impact in July because we made the change. We're done in the month of June.
Yeah, we didn't have any sales for the month of July, so
Okay.
and we don't typically do a lot of selling and buying.
Right.
So yeah, there were two major things that we had to get to. We had to increase our cash on hand from 2.2 to 4.5 million because we look at that 5-year short-term cash flow need, and 4.5 million was our largest cash flow need based on the modeling in our 5-year run. So we had to liquidate to make sure that we had cash on hand for that. So we had 2.2 million in that Wisdom Tree account. We increased that to approximately either 4.3 or 4.5 million. I'm trying to remember what number it was, but so we had that move, and then we had the move to go from 90-10 to 75-25. So
Right. Oh yeah, I wasn't sure if that was going to drag out 2 or 3 or 4 months.
Nope.
It didn't, and we ended up with a positive.
We ripped the Band-Aid off, and we did it right there.
And we had a positive result.
So we had
from the change.
181,000 positive cash flow. Yes.
Thanks, Chris. Rick?
Yeah, Cliff, of that 332,000 that we didn't spend, how much of that was deferred and how much of that was actually savings?
The deferred was that one, I want to say, well, here, it's on here.
I didn't catch that off the list.
Yeah. Oops, going the wrong way.
Did you bring your binoculars?
So we had, let me find it here.
Was the 135? Pro Shop.
Yes. Yep. Desert Trails Pro Shop parking lot. That got extended. That got deferred.
Okay.
Yeah. So the projects that are complete on here, we encumber those funds as part of the reserve fund calculation that we do with the auditors. And we keep that money available in our operating account to pay for those projects as they get moved forward into 25, 26. So the only deferred item on there was just that paving project at Desert Trails. And I think that's coming up in like 2032 or something like that. Yeah. Typically we encumber them But we had talked internally and we said, no, let's instead of encumbering those funds, let's kick it down and then we'll represent at the capital budget when it comes time for that project versus just holding the funds aside. Because it had such a larger useful life on it.
Great, thanks, Rick. Anybody else have any questions or comments for Cliff? I see no questions or comments online. Does anyone in the audience have any comments or questions for Cliff? No one's coming to the podium? Thank you, Cliff. Great presentation. I really appreciate it. Moving right on to the next item, 5.01, new business committee goals, tasks, and timelines. So we have a PowerPoint that I'd like to bring up that talks about the Budget and Finance Committee goals. And these aren't necessarily the only ones we're ever going to attack, but these are the ones that are top of mind today as we get started. For those of you that were on the board, on the committee, God, I got to quit saying the word board, on the committee last year, these may look a little bit familiar. And there may be a few more that we add to it as we go along. But primarily, we're going to be looking at the financial policy review. And I know that several of you have commented that you would like to continue the review process that was started last year with the financial policies and make some red line changes. So the policies you are welcome to download if you are of interest and look at those policies and email me and let me know if there's something that you think we want to put on the agenda, either September or in October's agenda, so we can bring it up for review and discussion and create a small working group around those policy decisions. Chris?
Yeah, I took a note. This is timely, Karen. This might be more applicable to you, but I don't think the latest financial policies are on the governance hub. Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
Okay, now I'm on the mic. So the policies that are listed on the new hub are all accurate with the exception of FY12 because there were revisions made, as you all know from last year, that we're checking. There are a few key parts that didn't migrate properly, but all of the remaining FI policies should be accurate. And FI12, as soon as I know, I'll repost it and let the committee know. And I'll indicate that it was revised so everybody knows they're looking at the latest and greatest. Okay, so that's a glitch, a migration glitch.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you. Yeah,
you're
that's
welcome.
The one, obviously, that's the one that I
That's the
noticed.
one that everyone's interested in,
So,
isn't it? Yes.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Karen refers to those as the pebbles in her shoe, the little things on the new governing board docs that haven't quite filtered through her perfection meter yet, and that would be one of them. The second thing on our list is the audit report review, which happens annually, and the audit report review happens in October, and so we'll all be involved in that. The investment review, again, which comes up in November, which we'll be involved in, and we'll all get to participate in that. The insurance review and renewals, the property and casualties, and the workers' compensation health insurance, that doesn't happen until February, March timeframe, so we'll be involved in that. The current year capital and operating budgets, reviewing actuals to plan. We do that obviously every month, just like we did today, and we'll be doing that again at each of our meetings. And the proposed capital and expense budget review and recommendations annually, which happens in April or May. So those are our primary committee goals, and I would like to have any feedback. Anyone from the committee have any feedback? Rick?
I think last year when we looked at the financial policy review, there were some changes to the fact that they weren't all consistent in the wording and how things were brought together. It seemed like they each individually written separately and then brought together. And I thought that this year we were talking about doing something holistically with all of those policies, looking at a master policy and then each one build underneath it. But I don't know if that was communicated, but I think we kind of tabled that last year, didn't we?
So you mean not just the financial policies, but all the policies, or
No,
just talking about the
all-
financial?
All the financial policies, and to make sure there's consistency, how it's worded, how it's formatted, how it's, all put together, so it's consistent across all finance.
Okay,
And then that was it was a topic that was brought up last year,
Right.
and some people felt very strongly about it,
Mhm.
and others, had
that's,
their
that's why it's on the
opinions.
top of our list here. Christine had
Right.
made me aware of that, and we wanted to get the new or the current policy and procedures, which weren't on our board docs as yet. But as soon as that gets out there and you all can download that, then at our next meeting, we can talk about creating a subcommittee, a working group,
Okay,
to work on those policies and red lines, and then we can get those,
That-
hopefully resolved and taken before the governing board. I think our goal is to take them to the governing board in December, January timeframe
yeah.
to be
So-
finalized.
It was just thought of what came up last year, and I thought we tabled that until this year.
Yep,
So,
we
okay,
did. And that's,
thanks.
I'm looking forward to you guys getting the chance to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? All right, I see nothing online, and the board has no more comments about our key goals. You also have in the agenda sort of our high-level roadmap and timing that you can all click on and look at. And again, for those that are returning to the board for the second year, this might look a little consistent. And you can see this is sort of our basic timeline of when we do the various things and the various topics that we are most involved in. Okay? All these things are online. For those of you that are joining us on YouTube, feel free to click on that link and let me know if you have any questions, and we'll bring it up. Any other comments from the committee? No comments online? No comments from the audience? We'll go ahead and we'll say that issue is now closed, and we'll go on with our next item. Committee research topics, which you were basically just talking about. That is to go back through the F&I policies and figure out where we need to make changes. And I think that's one of our number one topics. I know that several of you are interested in participating in the Properties Committee when they do their weekly walkarounds, so that you can personally experience what the Property Committee is seeing and understand the needs of the community, so when they come back to us with requests for capital, that we'll have a much better understanding. So those are going to be committee research topics, and we'll talk more about those in the coming months. Rick?
I highly recommend that every member of this committee do a walkthrough. It was so educationally impressive of what we do in this community. Second of all, you can actually see where the work needs to be done and the money associated with those projects. So to walk through last year was extremely educational for me personally, to see what we do here and where the money's being spent. So you see this long list of everything that's being done. You can go in and actually see the work that needs to be done. So from an educational standpoint, get up to speed from a finance committee member, I'd advise everybody to at least walk through several of these locations, and it's eye-opening. It really is eye-opening. Where you get it in Torch and where you get it in some of these other, tours, you didn't get behind the scenes. I mean, really behind the scenes. And Carl does such a great job at depicting everything that needs to be done and how the money, it's a great educational. So it's just my feeling that it was highly recommended. So
I had mentioned this to John Chatton, who is the chairman of the Properties Committee this year, and he was going to let us know when, where, and what time those walkthroughs would begin. I remember that last year they began very early in the morning, like at 6:30 or something, but I haven't heard from John what his strategy is, so I'm sure we'll hear from John shortly about that. Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments about that? All right, moving right along. I'm on 6.01, which is comments. So I'd like to open it up to the committee now and ask if the committee has any comments. This was a very nice meet and greet and sort of catch up on our financial situation for the 24-25 fiscal year. Thank you, Cliff. And I'll start down there with you. Rick, do you have any other comments?
I've got a few comments, but that's either. First of all, I'd like to ask Stephen. Last year, we had a $300,000 project, IT project, that was brought up as a capital item. It was turned down by the committee and turned down by the board. I would like to know what's the status of that, if you're continuing, or is that just, has it come and gone?
Yes, so the $300,000 that was set aside originally for the website and all that, we are working on developing the scope of work right now. And then once we figure out what that is, we're going to then put it out to find out what the actual cost will be, and we'll eventually be putting that into the budget for coming up this next fiscal year. So it's still in the works.
Thanks, Rick. Did you have any other comments?
I do, but I'll let other people talk.
David?
No, I had only question about the IT, and you've answered that question, so thanks.
Chris?
No, I'll only tell you that it's good to be back again, having these meetings again. And I would just ask anybody who's interested in maybe our rec card fee or our asset preservation fees and what they are. Maybe you were upset with the results last year, maybe you weren't. But to recognize everybody or remind everyone that we're going to start working on the budget next meeting now, right? So if you're interested and you think we should do this or we shouldn't do that, please get involved in these meetings, whether you come in person or watch online, because, you know, when we review it in May, somebody's going to ask questions, why did this happen? Well, you'd understand if you attended more of these meetings or watched more of these meetings. So if you know somebody that had a strong opinion of the fees that were put on here, well, this is the right meeting to come to.
Thanks, Chris. John?
Yeah, I have no comments.
Thank you. Don?
It's quite a learning experience, I can say that. Cliff, is a lot of this stuff online that you just presented?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we post our financial results on our CSCW website. Yep, and then we also post in the Rec Center News. The Rec Center News has quite a bit of a lag because of the timing and when we have to get everything in. But the month postings happen about the third week of every month for the prior month on the RCSCW website.
I can get all this stuff on your financial website, though, that you presented today.
Yes, you can that and more.
Okay.
So, and then if you go onto the hub, we do separate financial presentations for the sports pavilion at the sports pavilion committee and golf presentation as well at the golf committee meeting. So you can get really detailed and specific on the financial results in those areas.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Don. Do any of our remote committee members have any questions? Mickey?
I don't have any questions. I think I'd just like to echo the comments that if you're interested in the way this, our organization works, how it's managed, these meetings are just a font of information. You know, last year, I'm obviously very financially astute. However, going to these being a part of this for a year, just really opened my eyes in terms of the way our organization is funded, managed. And so I have to say with Cliff and others is that these are meetings to watch. If you want to understand how we are organized and run, budget and finance is the place to go.
Thank you, Mickey. Dave, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to just mention that I know we referred to earlier about the walkthrough, which really helps with helping us understand what needs to be done and when it needs to be done and why it needs to be done. I'd also just like to add that it might be a good idea to do the same thing on the golf courses and take a drive around and just see where we spend money, why we spend money, what it takes to maintain a golf course. It's just a suggestion. Maybe not everybody would want to do it, but I think it would be helpful to understand where all the money on the golf courses goes to.
Thank you, Dave. Bill, do you have any comments?
Okay. No, the only, this is more of a equipment comment. I was unable to get the gallery off of my screen. So as we were going through different items, I can only basically see about half. Who would know how to see the full screens? Because even if I just selected like the infotech screen, the other ones don't go away and I don't get a full screen on that. I'm using an iPad, so it might just be the deficiency of an iPad, but I was able to follow everything, but it would have been a lot easier to just be able to see just the one screen or the one person who was speaking at a time.
That's great. So Karen Ripken is your contact,
Okay.
so that you'll be able to clear up any problems you might be having. And if Karen has issues, she'll get the IT team on board to help you find your problems. I know when I first started trying to get on the new board docs, it wouldn't let me get in. And we spent several days, and I figured out that I had to clear out all my cache in order for me to be able to get in and do everything on the new website. Once I did that, everything worked like a charm. So that might be your answer as well.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thanks, Bill. Don Taylor, do you have any comments?
No comments.
Okay, thank you, Don. All right, so let's see. I do see we have one person standing at the podium.
Now, this is Carl Wilhelm, Capital Projects Manager. Just to help with property tour dates, this Thursday is the Properties Committee with Director Chatton, and he'll be announcing those dates then. But for this committee's help, properties tours begin September 30th at Palm Ridge. Please arrive at 6:45 at I believe, the pool entry.
Thank you, Carl.
You're welcome.
How's retirement?
Semi-retired.
Now you look like you're enjoying it. Thank you very much. We have another person at the mic. Please give us your name and your rec card number, which I forgot to tell Carl to do.
He's a staff member in that context. But hi, everyone. I'm Christine Novello, 127780, but I'm the governing board president this year. So first of all, I wanted to thank each and every one of you, members of the committee, for volunteering yet another year of your time. And for those of you new, welcome aboard. The other thing that I wanted to say is that regarding I think it was Dave who had requested golf. Rudy Grom chairs our golf committee, and last year also the golf committee invited the Budget and Finance Committee to join them on their tours. So do stay tuned for that. I'm certain the golf committee will, once they schedule those tours, work together with you, Ann, so you can have a member or two join. It is very educational. I just wanted to answer that question for you.
Thank you, Christine. So we have no comments online, questions online. We have no one from the audience. So I want to remind everyone that these meetings are recorded and they can be viewed on YouTube. So please go to YouTube, look us up, and you can take a look at the video if you missed it today. The next Budget and Finance meeting will be on September 16th, 2025, 9 o'clock here in this room. And I will call this meeting adjourned as of 10:12 this morning. Thank you, everyone.